didn't really help my allergies that much, but now I'm drowsy. So the medicine is working, but not for my allergies. Oops. So anyway, pardon me in advance if I have to blow my nose a few times, but maybe it'll be a reminder of the suffering nature of samsara. You know? Actually, you know, this morning I woke up in Bylakuppe, and we had the monks' confession ceremony at 7. And usually during that ceremony, I tend to sneeze a lot. And so I think either it's because, you know, when you confess, you purify your negative karma. And so, if you guys, have you received teachings on purification practice? But in any case, they say that there's 3 levels, or 3 levels you can purify your negative karma. So if you have one particular negative karma, let's say that would have you be reborn as a hell being for an eon. So instead of being reborn there for an eon or a million years, you could be reborn as a hell being for 100,000 years. So then, that's the lessening of the karmic impact. Of course, the best is to have no karmic ripening effect at all. Whereby you would not have to experience any suffering effect. But somewhere in the middle then is instead of experiencing the karma that would have you reborn in the realm, you experience something undesirable in this life, like an allergy attack. So I think, oh, I'm purified. But then sometimes I also think, the robes we wear during the confession ceremony, we only wear those during the confession ceremony every 2 weeks. So I think, oh, during the monsoon it got moldy and therefore I'm allergic to the mold. So either way, I'm not sure. Okay, hi, we're just chatting a little bit. I was apologizing in advance because I have a bit of an allergy attack that hasn't been ameliorated. Do you guys know that word? Yeah. Hasn't been gotten better from taking some medicine. So I apologize in advance because I'm going to have to do this a few times. Okay. So I also don't have my glasses. So have I seen you two before?
You've seen me actually,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my first class.
Your first time. Do you wear glasses?
No.
No. Okay.
I just changed my...
I don't... Yeah, I can't...
I changed my beard style.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Alright.
I saw you, I attended more than one of your classes.
Okay, great. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Alright. So why don't we start in the usual way with a little bit of meditation at the beginning to kind of settle our minds and prepare ourselves for the upcoming lecture. So, as most of you know, then we'll just do the simple meditation on mindfulness of the breath meditation, or anapanasati. So please get into a comfortable meditation position. Try to keep your eyes just slightly open, allowing some light to enter. Make sure that your body is straight and centered, yet relaxed. And then once you've gotten into a comfortable meditation posture, then you can start focusing in on the breath. So try to become aware of the physical sensations in the body as we inhale and exhale. So as we inhale, you can feel, you can sense the abdomen expanding, rising. As we exhale, we can feel it contract, fall. So just place your mind's attention like a sentry, just watching the rising and falling of the abdomen. Here we're working with the natural breath as it is, so not having preference for a long breath or a short breath. We're just trying to be aware of the natural breath as it is. Us beginners might also find it useful to count the exhalations. So as we breathe in, and then as we breathe out, then at the last second of the out-breath, count 1. Breathe in again, exhale, and count 2, and so forth, until we reach 10. When you reach 10, start over again at 1. If in the intervening period, if other external distractions like sounds come, then don't engage with them. Or if internal thoughts, discursive thoughts come, also don't engage. You can become aware of their presence, but by not engaging, then they will dissolve back into the nature of the mind. So we'll do this for 5 more minutes. so everyone knows how to do that meditation? Yes? Yes? And then the people that know, do we actually do it? Or do we just know how to do it but don't do it? Huh?
Do slightly different meditation.
Dzogchen.
No, Venerable Vipassana. I don't do Dzogchen, not trained in Dzogchen.
Vipassana. Special insight.
No, that mindfulness of body.
Meditation.
Mindfulness of body sensation.
Actually, this mindfulness of breath meditation in the classic Vipassana in the Theravada tradition is actually included in the mindfulness of the body, of the in the Satipatthana Sutra. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Somebody told me that Gautama Buddha, after having tried so many techniques and then he got enlightened through Anapanasati technique in the last phase of his practice before enlightenment. So I had a doubt if that is true.
Yeah. Who told you that?
I was attending one class where he's not a regular Buddhist follower, but he was commenting like this.
Yeah. Well,
He was trying to tell that Anapanasati is the most easiest, simplest and the best technique for meditation, and in that regard he was telling this.
that I might agree with.
Okay.
But if we're trying to attain full enlightenment, I think we'll need something more than just the easiest and simplest.
Okay.
No, seriously though. Of course. I'm going to address your question in a bit, okay? Because what we're doing this weekend in general, we're going to be getting to this text, the Bodhisattvacharyāvatāra by Shantideva, and we have 3 sessions this weekend. So seems like a lot of time. But what I thought when we made the schedule is that usually we just have 2 times in a weekend. But for the Saturday night session, there can be a lot of new people coming. And since we've already been going through this text for months, then I feel a kind of obligation to get them up to speed with what we've covered thus far, so we're all on the same page. And then also some of the even more experienced students, it's good to set the context over and over again. Right, Shanti?
Yes, sir.
So what usually happens is then the Saturday section gets almost completely taken up by a kind of introduction and review. And then we only have Sunday morning to progress new material. But Sunday morning, people bring snacks. We say come at 10 to 1. People roll in at 10:30. Everyone wants to have their Sunday brunch before coming. Then we have more snacks. So we don't progress very much through the text. Right? So I said to Shanti, my boss, I'm willing to come on Friday. I'm going to take another day out of my busy schedule to come. Right, Shanti?
Sorry, Venerable.
Yeah, no. You with me? I said, I'll come on Friday. I'll take another day out of my busy schedule to come. So we can do Friday for the introduction and review. And then we have Saturday and Sunday to progress more material, right? Because, you know, really, you only have myself and Venerable Lexo who come and teach this. And, well, other places within the FPMT mandala, so to speak, you know, they'll have 3 days of class a week, sometimes more, right? So if you have us only 2 weekends out of a month, and you know half of those sessions are spent on review, we're not progressing through the text very much. Okay? So that was my thought. Okay. So, I've been doing this kind of review during the first session of the weekend, and I've kind of come to a pretty satisfactory, in my mind at least, kind of way that I kind of conceptually introduce the text. I don't know, I might just be getting proud of myself, right? But usually, yeah, I follow His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he gives introductory talks. And the very foundation, the very starting point of what we're doing is the insight into our condition as living beings, that everyone wants to be happy and wants to avoid suffering. Okay? That's the very starting point of everything we do. You know? And then so I usually invite people to think back over their lives, you know? And even from an infant, you know, just out of the mother's womb, crying. Why? Because he's suffering in some way, and either wants the bottle, wants the diaper changed, wants food, wants mommy, something, right? Because they're suffering. They don't know how to express that in some way, so they just cry, right? And, you know, yeah, getting older, going to school, when we are very diligent in our studies, you know, or we're playing around, yeah. The diligent students, they're thinking, okay, well, maybe some of them are thinking, my mom or dad will scold me, my teacher will scold me if I don't study, right? So it's a type of avoidance of suffering, right? Others might be, okay, I want to do well so I can go on and get, you know, good marks, so I can go to a good, you know, school, so I can get a good job, so I can, I don't know, discover the cure for cancer or something, right? So that's a kind of positive motivation, right? Then even on into adulthood, right? Whether it is, you know, exercising, you know, getting up very early, going to the gym, you know, getting in our reps, getting in our, you know, workouts, right? Or going on a Netflix binge or something, you know? Yeah, sorry, watching a lot of movies. Yeah, I know, you guys don't do this.
I do.
Okay, right? So it's still the same thing, right? Of course, there is some differences between whether we're going for long-term or short-term pleasure, mental pleasure or physical pleasure, sort of hedonistic, you know, pleasure of the senses, or more of a, you know, the more kind of intellectual satisfaction of doing, like, you know, a hard, challenging work and doing a very good job at it, right? these things vary, but essentially, this quest of wanting happiness, satisfaction, whatever you might call it, and avoiding suffering, is the fundamental driving principle of everything that we do, and not just us as humans, but even, we look at the animals, we can see, right? Yeah, eating food, trying to gain territory, trying to gain mates, all that. Mosquitoes or flies flying away when they see your hand coming. It's a principal driving force of nature. Okay? Alright. So now we look at our lives. And when we were students, what were we doing? Were we the diligent ones, studying on Friday, Saturday night? Or were we going out to party? Anyway, you think. But, if we're honest about how we spend our time, how we spend our energy, especially before we met Dharma, yeah? Think to when you were 22, 23, or whatever. Going out to party, trying to get girlfriends or whatever, be popular, Then we move into our first jobs, trying to get the raise, trying to get the nice house, go out, eat at the nice restaurants, be seen at the cool clubs, go to the nice concerts, wear the, most fashionable clothes. Yes? Get the most followers on Instagram. I don't know what you guys do. Yeah? So if we're honest, or maybe I'm only speaking for myself, but most of the energy, most of the effort we put is to kind of arrange the outside world in a way that will bring us more happy. Yeah. I said happy instead of happiness. So, then at some point, right, and I'm taking this as evidence because you're here today, we get a little bit of a skepticism. Skepticism that the strategy with which we've been living our life is the one that's going to lead to the happiness that we're really seeking. And I bet we all have our own stories. For some, it can be the death of a loved one. For some, it can be, the loss of a job, an accident, an illness, a bad breakup. Yeah. And then it's a bit of a wake-up call, right? Oh, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. And all the things that I've been doing up until now, what has it really, gotten me? extend our skepticism to the narrative that the society is telling us, that our parents are telling us, that the mass media is telling us, right? This formulaic, get this, and you're happy, right? Good job, right? Loving partner, 2 kids, house, 2 cars, vacation in Goa, some diamond jewelry, and the latest smartphone. Then you're happy. Yes? Yeah?
The last sentence you mentioned, you need to have, for the waking up, you gave some reasons for the waking up.
Yeah.
So is that needed? Do we need to have some reason to wake up? Is it?
Well,
and mostly the reasons are on tragedies or.
So, yes. I'm talking in general, okay? But we even see, and since there's only a few of us, I invite your questions. So we even see from the life story of Buddha, if you remember, the Buddha was born into the royal family, and at the time of his birth, the astrologers told his father, the king, that the son would become a great king or a great religious leader. And so the king, wanting his son to follow in his footsteps and become another great king, pampered him, sheltered him in the palace, didn't let him outside, right? Thinking that he would become so kind of accustomed to the luxurious living that he would never, give it up, right? But as the story goes, one time, then he leaves the palace for the first time and sees the 4 sights, right? He sees the sick person, the old person, the corpse, right? And since he had never seen those 3 before, he asks his attendant, what's going on with this person? Oh, he's sick. Does everyone get sick, or is he the only one? No, most people get sick. And then saying, what's with this person? Seeing the old person with a stick. What happened? Oh, that person's old. So that discovery, the dead person, everyone dies. So in general, so that's one thing. The 4th sight was then seeing the renunciate, a sadhu, sannyasi. Then was told, this person, what's he doing? He's trying to find, liberation, moksha, freedom from all suffering. Right? So that's one thing. Second, we even see in the Buddha's first teaching, the teaching on the 4 Noble Truths, the first thing he taught, this is the truth of suffering. So, of the 4 truths, right, truth of suffering, truth of the cause of suffering, truth of the cessation of suffering, truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, It says in the traditional text, usually you talk about the cause first and then the result, right? Because the cause becomes before the effect. But here, Buddha is talking about the effect, the result, suffering. And then talks about the cause of suffering, origin of suffering. Why is that? Right? And so there, the reason that is stated is, we have a very, like it says in the Guru Puja, we view this suffering life of samsara as a pleasure grove. You know? So until we see the faults, until we see that there's some problem with this way of existing, we will never seek a solution. Right? So this is given in an analogy by Maitreya in the Uttara Tantra, where he says, a medical analogy, right? Just like the illness needs to be identified, right? The cause diagnosed, the remedy attained, or no, health attained, and the remedy of medicine to be followed. So too the suffering, the origination, cessation on the path need to be identified, abandoned, attained, and followed. Something like this. I don't know how. You get my point, right?
Is it like we're going towards prevention is better than cure? Or we're going against it? Like you see the...
See, this is the problem. We're already sick. There's no prevention. Right? But, it's like this. When you go into your doctor, he doesn't just say, or she doesn't just say, okay, we're going to cut you open. First, doing the test, doing the diagnosis, and say, you have this illness. You have to understand that you're sick. First, we have to understand that actually what we see, what we conceive our lives being actually, it's not so bad. It's okay. There's ups and downs. But to actually see, no, there's very deep faults and drawbacks with this type of living that we have. And why? Because we're in samsara. Because this type of body and mind is projected by our previous karma and our good deeds. So therefore, go ahead.
I completely agree with the narrative. See, Siddhartha was confined not to see the suffering, right?
Yeah.
And so when he saw the suffering, he was shocked. He was, I see suffering everywhere. I'm not secluded.
Yeah.
For me, suffering is natural course of life.
Yeah.
I'm not secluded. I'm not kept inert.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a shock.
Yeah.
For me, it's naturalized. So how do I look at it? How do I even look at as, because suffering is natural, it's there always. What is so unnatural about it? Why is it so stigmatized?
Well, so here, there's two things, right? Like Shantideva says, if there's something you can do about it, why worry? If there's nothing you can do about it, why worry? Okay? So, if we're in a suffering situation, we're stuck in traffic, noisy, it's hot, we can't just make the traffic move, we can't make the temperature cooler, right? So, if we, get more and more agitated mentally, we'll increase our suffering, right? So at a certain time, certain situations, we have to just accept, okay, I'm stuck in traffic. But in general, next time we'll open up the Google Maps and try to take the route that we won't get stuck in traffic, right? So it's because there's an overall wish not to experience suffering that sometimes we have to accept suffering in the short term. Do you know what I mean? Things that are outside of our control. But the overall, project of Dharma is to, uproot and eradicate the forms of suffering in our lives. Well, lead all others to do the same thing. So, okay, I guess to get back to the original question, right? I'm saying in my experience, when you look at many people, many of the serious practitioners I know, Venerable Lexoku, he had cancer when he was in his young 20s, right? Another person I know, her mother committed suicide when she was, still young, right? So these like big traumatic events can serve as a wake-up call. You also see, sometimes people, they have the near-death experience, they have a car crash or something, and then they totally view their lives differently. And they say, okay, well, all that stuff I was doing before, was that really meaningful? So sometimes I can serve as a catalyst, but it's not necessary, So don't, go jump in front of a car if you haven't had something like that, right? I mean, there's a saying, of course, it's smart to learn from your own mistakes, but it's really intelligent to learn from someone else's mistakes or experience. So, with some intelligence, even though you haven't yourself gotten, cancer or had your parents die or these things, you can look around and yes, see it. And you ask yourself, okay, what's the difference? Is my type of body and mind in such a way that I'm guaranteed not to experience that kind of situation? No. Okay, so what to do? Then we're getting into the third noble truth, truth of cessation of suffering. Actually, all those things we don't have to experience. I mean, in general, one doesn't have to experience it. The beings in samsara do, right? Because we have this contaminated body and mind projected by karma and afflictions. Therefore, sniffles come. Why? Not because of some pollen or some this or that.
The system is being attacked.
Well, no, not even that. The more fundamental reason is because I have a type of body and mind whose immune system can be attacked. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a samsara being. Alright, so what was that? Oh yes. So at a certain point, making that kind of discovery, starting to question our long-held views about the sources and drivers of happiness and suffering. And then at some point, kind of questioning the narrative told to us by society. The checklist for things, get this, get that, then we'll be happy. And then, I think we all have this, but a recognition that actually, of course, the external conditions do make a difference. We need to eat. Right? We do have this body that does get sick, so it's good to have medicine. We get cold or hot, And yeah, for sure, given a choice, I would rather eat nice food and sleep in a comfortable bed, and, you know, never get stuck in traffic, and never have you know, barking dogs keep me up at night, right? Never get sick. Oh man. But you see, the mind. The mind is the fundamental lens with which we perceive anything. So, the mind determines the very quality of our experience. You understand? So, take anything. Any situation, let's say, being criticized, right? Normally, we say it's such a bad thing, right? We don't want to be criticized, right? But someone else with a different mindset, you know, sees those very, you know, or hears those very words of criticism and could view it actually as a good thing, right? Giving them something, some kind of feedback that they can then work on. And use that to, you know, identify faults that they can, you know, improve, right? Therefore, you know, some people welcome that type of criticism. I'm just saying. Right?
But criticism in good faith is welcome, but in a bad faith.
Well, see, even that doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I'm saying for a well-trained practitioner, right? You see, it actually doesn't matter the other person's intention. Even if they have a bad intention, right? If they criticize me and I'm able to bring that into my practice,
How is that possible?
oh my gosh, yes.
You know, for example, I create something and there's a feedback, there's a piece of writing, there's a criticism,
Yeah.
critique on that, especially. Critique in various forms, you know, taking different parameters and there's critique. And the person who critiques it has very definite intention of the bad faith.
Yeah.
It's not that cannot be my feedback, that cannot be my seeds to consume, right? How do I perceive that?
Okay. We'll get into this later, but these are quite there's a whole body of rather advanced teachings called mind training, Lojong, the mind training teachings, and within that there's it's called bringing adverse conditions into the path, right? Whereby actually, you know, everything can be used in our practice to achieve enlightenment. So I'll just say this, right? You know, this gets into the practice of Tonglen, equalizing and exchanging self for others. You understand? You heard this before here? Ale. Oh man. Okay. Let me go a little bit more. Wow. Okay. What should I do? What should I do? Okay. Yikes. So, yeah. Should I talk about this now? So Shantideva says, you know, that there's actually good qualities of suffering. Okay? And let me see if I can remember that. Right? But we banish pride, right? We gain compassion for others that are suffering. We vow to eschew or like abandon non-virtue and get a delight in practicing virtue. Okay? So, this is very, very basic. So even someone criticizes you in bad faith, okay? Even if it's completely, okay, so it's like this. Even if they did it in bad faith, that's their problem. My job as a practitioner is to take care of my own mind, okay? So what happens? One, here's the first benefit. What? You know? He said that about me? Right? So this sense of the I, the self-important ego, right? Me. He's attacked me unfairly. Okay? That's actually an object to be abandoned on the path to enlightenment. Okay? This larger than life sense of the I. So by putting us in a situation where that comes up, we're able to identify the enemy. The true enemy, that we call that the self-cherishing thought. Okay? But that's, again, events. Shorter than that, then we look at the criticism. Okay? Now, maybe they criticize us on 10 points. We look. Maybe one of the 10 is partially true. Okay? They didn't say it to benefit us. They just wanted to hurt us. Nonetheless, depends on us, right? So if we can say, okay, well actually yes, this one has a bit of truth in it. You know, I don't know, let's say we publish a book and they criticize our book. Say, yes, I could have made that section a little bit more clear, this, great. Right? Okay. Forget about that. What Shantideva is also saying, okay, why am I experiencing this? Because, in the past, I've criticized someone. This is where we get into karma. Okay? Everything that we experience, according to the view of karma, is the ripening effect of actions that we've done in the past. Okay? So, instead of then, retaliating, we say, okay, since I don't like this, I'm going to be very cautious not to do this type of criticism again. And instead do the reverse, the opposite, and praise and use kind and constructive speech toward others. So if that's the case, and we can change our own minds, and by the way, then we can think, compassion too, right? We can think of all the other people, that are experiencing this type of criticism, this type of undesirable thing in the world. Then, as the great Tibetan masters of old would say, when they experience some kind of suffering, they say, due to my experiencing this suffering, may the ocean of suffering of all sentient beings be dried up. So when you experience that criticism, to think, okay, due to me experiencing this, may no one else in the universe experience suffering. So use it as a way to enhance compassion. You understand? So in that way, it doesn't even matter what the other person's intentions were. You have then brought that situation and use it as a way to enhance your practice. later, actually, we're getting to it. Where we are in the text, actually, we're in the patience chapter, where Shantideva talks about the way to think differently when we experience suffering, to transform our minds. Okay. So where was I?
Suffering, noble truths.
Why is it the other way around?
Yes. Why the Buddha taught suffering first? I think there's something after that. In any case, I was talking about the mind being the primary determining factor in our experience. Right? Of course, the external circumstances do have some effect, but primary is our mind. Right? One, and this is what I was just saying. In the moment, right, the same experience, can be viewed in totally different ways depending on the mind, right? Being really hot and sweaty and panting, could be very, unbearable, right? But those, at the end of a run, be like, oh, that's so great. I felt the burn, and would view that same experience with being something good, or think of someone paying money to go to a sauna, right, to get that experience, right? Right? So it depends on the mind. Then, of course, the other level, when we start to bring in karma, is that, as I was saying, all of our experiences of suffering or happiness are the ripening effects of actions that we ourselves have committed in the past. And so, if we don't want to experience suffering, every time, actually, we experience something like this, I should be thinking this now. Oh, therefore, I must never, commit negative actions again. Right? You understand? Okay. So given, right? You with us? Let's review. We all want happiness, don't want suffering. Of happiness and suffering, we have the physical, mental. We have the mental or physical suffering that is, dependent on outside factors, and then that's dependent on the mind. Okay? So here, when we talk about dharma, then, of course, in the dictionaries, you'll see, I think, 11 definitions of the word dharma, right? But in this context, we talk about dharma being like the method or methods to transform the mind. Okay? Understand? Why? Okay. One, the mind is the primary determining factor of our experience. Two, we look at our minds now And these, they call it destructive emotions, klesha. Afflictive emotions, okay, like anger, jealousy, pride, and so forth. Those cause us suffering in the moment, right? Where when we're angry, definitely not happy. Okay? Then it's easier to see that when we're angry, we're not happy. But even when we have kind of uncontrolled desire, lust, also unhappy. Right? Desire is a bit tricky because it appears to be our friend. But actually, along with that desire, there's a sense of lacking.
It's unmet desire, right? When the desires are not met, there is suffering. When the desires are met, then it's not suffering.
Well, so it's like this. You have the desire first, and when the desire first comes, it's always unmet. Therefore, you undertake some series of steps to try to attain what you want. Right? Most of the time, we're unsuccessful. But even when you are successful, you see, it's very short-lived, right? And this is the nature of samsaric pleasure. There's never enough. We constantly then keep changing the goals, right? When we graduate from university, we might be in some debt, right? Okay, I'm going to pay off all my bills, my loans. Then I'm suffering because I'm in debt. When I get out of debt, then I'll be happy. But then, you get out of debt, but now I want to buy my house. I also have to save up for the down payment, or whatever it is, right? Then we get that, and then, but now I want this, now I want that, So it keeps changing. So, Nagarjuna talks about this in the letter to the friend, but anyway, it's like one of the faults of samsaric existence is this insatiability. Means, well, with anything, any kind of samsaric pleasure,
Not feeling enough, wanting more and more and more.
Yeah, it's never enough.
You're empty, that's why you're taking outside. If you're complete from inside, you don't need.
Yeah.
But that can be controlled. Like, I need a house, but I don't need such a big house. But I need a house. So how do we look at that? So what you're saying, you don't need a house. But I need a house. I may not need a house where it's...
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, maybe of course, when we talk about desire, not all desire is bad. Okay? So we're talking about the afflictive desire, right? Some desires are good. Desire to attain liberation, desire to attain enlightenment, right? And of course, well, do we really need a house? Many of the monks, they would just, in Buddhist time, they would sleep at the foot of a tree, right? They would sleep in a cave or something. Anyway, but even forgetting that, yes, I mean, for us, we probably can say we need to eat and drink, right? So don't think like, oh, the Buddhist monk said all desire is bad, so I'm going to starve myself, and like, also we're not into, self-mortification, sleeping on a bed of nails, walking on hot coals, all these kinds of things. But I think I said this the other weekend, but see, for us, the problem with, the main problem with sense desire is that they're very time consuming. You understand? I made this, comment, this observation the other week. Okay, I like food, okay? And, people somehow came to think that I really enjoy pizza, Italian food. And so I think one time, I'm not even sure about details, but the principle is the same, right? We go, someone picks me up, they want to take me to Italian food. We get to the restaurant and it's closed. So much suffering. Right? Oh no, don't worry, Namjong. They go on Zomato or whatever, right? Let's find the other, Italian place. And it's like, halfway across town, at UBC, something, right? So I'm like, okay, yeah. And then we go, and then there's all sorts of traffic. And then we go and we come back, and it's like, 4 hours later. You know? You know what I mean? It was good enough, the food. But the restaurant next door to the place that we went to originally that was closed, that would have been fine. I would have been in and out, and I would have had like 3 more hours of my life to practice Dharma. You understand? So, we're getting into this later, but as Shantideva says, leisure and endowment are difficult to find, and since what they, it's like the 3rd stanza. Leisure and endowment are very hard to find, and since they accomplish what is meaningful for humanity, if I do not take advantage of them now, how will such a perfect opportunity come about again? It's the 4th stanza in the text. You guys understand? Leisure and endowment means this human body, this human body and human mind that gives us, with it we can accomplish what is meaningful for humanity, means liberation and enlightenment. So if we have this opportunity with this body that you all have, right? You can become enlightened in this body. Do you understand? Just like Buddha. Okay?
In this life.
In this life. in 12 years, maybe. Yeah? You understand? No, you actually don't. We don't. It's a joke. We read these texts so many times again, right? But if we really understood that, no way would we, go 4 hours out of the way for pizza. You understand? We can become like Buddha in this life. You know?
People say it will take eons of incarnations to become Buddha.
Well, maybe.
Karma has to be balanced.
It depends on the individual.
Well, yeah, yes.
If he's very lazy to change himself.
I'll tell you. It'll take many eons. It'll take many more eons if you don't practice. It'll never happen if you don't practice. Right?
Right.
So, it's up to you. So this is the thing. I mean, of course. I was starting to do it in a bit systematic way, and now we're getting a little jumbled, but you guys, forgive me. You see,
what you said right now has actually inspired me towards practice very much. It's inspired me.
Great. Oh, hey,
Thank
but
you
by
for
the way,
coming on Friday, Venerable.
by the way, wait. Is that me? Is that me? You see, Shantideva, you see,
Indian master.
this, why he puts it first, basically. Of course, the beginning is like, he pays homage to the gurus and all this, right? And he says what, the purpose of doing his text, right? But this is the actual of the real body of the text is the first stanza, right? And then when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa in the Lam Rim, this is the first topic of Lam Rim. Well, of course, there's devotion to the Guru, but the preciousness of the human rebirth, right? This is to, exhort ourselves to take advantage of this precious opportunity we have as human beings. Yes, we can do so many things with it. We could, of course, spend our whole lives eating pizza, drinking pina coladas, going to the beach in Goa, having a nice time, right? Okay. We could.
Isn't it much better than harming people?
Well, so that's all relative, right? It's all relative, okay? So, just doing that, not harming. But, yeah, hello.
So I went through this test, something called as passion test. So then I finally found out that what I actually want is, I want to see everyone in the world as Buddha. So the test was given in so many different ways, but my intention all the time, or what gets to my mind, is to see everyone as Buddha in the world.
Okay.
So how do I make it happen? Should I not bring that I in between to get that happen, or how can I be an instrument for that?
Now, when you say see everyone as Buddha,
Or
do you want them to be actually Buddhas?
actual Buddhas, yeah.
Because otherwise, no. There's other things where you see all beings as your mother, right? But I only have one mother, But if you see them as your mother, you treat them kindly. Okay. Well, we're getting. Okay. Let me do what I have to do a little bit, and I'm gonna get to that. Okay. Because here, you see, with this human life of leisure and endowment, okay, we can accomplish so many things. Yeah. We can have happiness in this life. Yes. I mean, we can cause a lot of harm in this life too, but I don't think we want to do that. We can just pursue the happiness of this life. Okay, fine. But when we start talking about our like a Dharma motivation, the motivation with which we practice Dharma, then as Atisha describes in the Lamp to the Path of Enlightenment, that this so-called entry to the Dharma is to aspire to a good rebirth in the next life. So, as the kind of minimum, is to go beyond the mere pursuit of pleasure or happiness in this life. But, well, is that enough? No way. Because even if we were able to get a good rebirth in our next life, what after that? Right? There's no stability. And second, when we talk about a good rebirth in our next life, we could be talking, I mean, like a human, right? That's a good rebirth. But yet, even with a human rebirth, we experience so much suffering, actually. You understand? So then we get into the why. Why? And the real answer is because we're in samsara. As I alluded to before, we have a type of body and mind that is projected, thrown by our previous karma and afflictive emotions. And as long as we have this type of samsaric existence, we're going to experience one type of unsatisfactory experience or another.
May I ask a question?
You may.
So you said about taking rebirths, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's a projection of your own karmic account or desires.
Okay. Yeah.
If you don't want rebirth at all,
Yeah.
is it same as getting enlightenment? Where you're getting out of the samsaric cycle.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm getting to this. Okay. So here, let's go back to the Four Noble Truths, right? So we have all these suffering experiences, true suffering. The cause of it is karma and afflictions. So the state of cessation from suffering, as Nagarjuna says in the Buddhism, Ledan Yomo Sevetar means Ledan Yomo, Le is karma, Yomo is afflictions. Sepe is like through abandoning, through exhausting, one attains liberation. Okay? So since the cause of samsaric rebirth is karma and afflictions, if you don't want the effect, the result of samsaric rebirth, you have to get rid of the causes. Getting rid of those causes is what the attainment of moksha or nirvana, liberation is. Okay? So if you don't want samsara, you have to abandon causes, karma, and afflictions. Okay. Now, let's say we're successful in this life. Okay? We won't take rebirth in samsara again.
Benjamin, we can end early.
Yeah.
It's okay. But at the time of death, it's not the case that the mental continuum will be severed in the Mahayana system. In the Theravada system, what they believe is if you're able to attain nirvana in this life, just like a candle or a butter lamp that runs out of wax, right? What happens? The flame just goes out because it's running out of fuel. Okay? So they hold that karma and afflictions is the fuel for any type of rebirth. So if you don't have karma and afflictions, the mind gets snuffed out. You know? Like the end of a flame. But what the Mahayana philosophical system says is that no, that's not true. It's impossible, actually. The continuity of an afflicted, contaminated consciousness is, exhausted, but a non-afflicted, pure, you could say, mind stream will continue. And that continues on forever. The continuity of mind is eternal. But you can have a contaminated or uncontaminated. Okay? Does that answer your question? So
you
if
might not take a projection of a body, right? It can be without a body also.
yes. So here you see, even in samsara, even beings who haven't attained nirvana, there's a so-called, the three dhatu, right? The three realms, right? We're in the desire realm. There's the form realm and the formless realm. So this is even in samsara. And by the way, we've all attained rebirth in the formless realm countless times. So the people who attain nirvana in this life and then don't enter the Mahayana, this is a whole other can of worms. But if they pass away from this life, then yes, they won't take a corporal body. They'll just remain in some blissful samadhi for a long time. But at a certain point, the Buddhas will wake them up and say, I forget the stanza, but something like you've only abandoned a portion of the faults. You haven't done all that needs to be done. Now is the time to enter the Mahayana. So here, we also have to make a distinction between the mere attainment of nirvana and the attainment of complete enlightenment, the enlightenment of a Buddha, or a Samyak Sambuddha. And basically, how we do that, as I was saying, Arjuna said, the exhaustion of karma and afflictions, through the exhaustion of karma and afflictions, one attains liberation. But the Buddha, or in Tibetan, Sangye, Sang has the connotation of purification, Ge has the connotation of increase, completion. So the Buddha is the one who has the complete abandonment of all the faults of the mind, as well as the imprints, and the complete development of all positive qualities. You understand? So that goes beyond the mere attainment of nirvana.
Can you repeat this sentence, please?
Which sentence? Okay. Samgye. Sam is purify, ge is develop or increase. So the Buddha is the one who has completely abandoned all the faults of the mind, along with their subtle imprints, and completely developed all good qualities of the mind. The ones who have attained mere liberation from samsara just have abandoned karma and afflictions. You understand? So now you're saying how to make everyone Buddha, right? So you need to become a Buddha first, actually. This is the thing, right? Why that is even wanted, right? Why do we why don't we just set our sights for the mere, bliss of nirvana, right? No more suffering. Isn't that what we all want? Why go to this? And by the way, yes, you probably heard right? To attain the state of full enlightenment, it is said that Shakyamuni Buddha took what they call 3 countless great eons. Yeah? Many lifetimes. Many millions, billions of years. Rebirths. Training over and over. And very arduous practice. Giving up his life, his limbs. For you. So you can attain enlightenment for you. That's the thing, right? Why do we need enlightenment? See, there are the unique qualities of the Buddha that make him what they call, the unexcelled teacher. So that they say the Buddha is omniscient, all-knowing. And because of that, can guide sentient beings in the best way possible, in the way that would be most, the quickest way for them to also get enlightened. So, you see, the Buddha is the only one with no mistakes, okay? So even there's stories like this, where even beings who have attained individual liberation, they've attained nirvana. Yes, they can guide sentient beings. Yes, they have some level of clairvoyance. They have great qualities, far superior to anything that I have. But there's one story where there's an old man, I think he was 80. He's living at home, and his family kind of abused him, made fun. called him, yeah, you old man, now you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. He got fed up. I don't want to live with these brats anymore. So I went to the monastery, where Shariputra, who was the, foremost of the Buddha's disciples in wisdom, Shariputra. We have some of his holy relics here, actually. And he asked Shariputra, oh, I want to ordain. And Shariputra says, with his clairvoyance, looks, and says, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have any roots of virtue for you to become a monk. So then the old man gets even more depressed, says, oh, my family hates me, they make fun of me, now even the Buddha's Sangha won't accept me, I'm going to go kill myself. I'm going to go jump in a river, just end it. I have no hope. So he goes to the river, jumps in, and of course the Buddha, through his power of omniscience, not just clairvoyance, omniscience, sees this and then magically, appears, emanates, and saves him. Explains the story. The man explains the story and says, hey, Shariputra said that, but Shariputra hasn't trained for 3 countless great eons to attain omniscience like I have. And I do see that you do have roots of virtue for you to become a monk. You understand? As the story goes, just to complete the story. So many, many eons ago, that man, there's different versions, but one is that he was born as a fly. And, stupa? Yeah, stupa? Anyway, this is kind of, holds the Buddha's relics. Yeah, like there. Okay. So the Buddha's, bones, teeth, some ashes. So there's a stupa contained with Buddha's relics, or previous Buddha's relics. And as a fly, there's a cow that went around and was making, droppings. And the fly went from dropping to dropping and made a circumambulation in that way around the stupa. You understand? So actually there's a lot to be said about this story. But for now, just know this is the power of holy objects. And why our spiritual director, Namjong Geshe, he very much emphasizes the building, construction of holy objects. Because usually for our actions to become virtue, we need a positive motivation. And usually for our actions to become causes of enlightenment, we need to have the mind of Bodhicitta, the altruistic wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. But major purification for me today.
For actions to become virtuous, we need to have what?
What's that?
For actions to become virtuous, we need to have what?
Okay. Usually, you need to have a virtuous mind, virtuous motivation. Okay? And, so this is what we're saying, right? When we talk about Dharma motivation, there's the 3. There's a motivation for a good rebirth in our next life, motivation for the liberation of samsara, or liberation for full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so usually, for an object, for an action to become virtuous, we need any one of those three motivations. If we motivate with just wanting to rebirth in our next life, it will happen, but that's it. If we motivate with a wish to achieve liberation from samsara for ourselves alone, yes, it will become a cause of that, but that's it. But if we have the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, it'll become a cause of that, and then the other two are naturally attained. As normal talk. But due to the power of holy objects, because the Buddha is so powerful as an object of merit, even, that fly, no thought of Bodhicitta, no thought of next life, only thinking about the wonderful taste of cow dung, right? And that's the reason went around. Didn't even have recognition probably that was a stupa. But very naturally, just did that. Then that became the root of virtue. And that old man became liberated in that life. Okay? So now Lama Zopa Rinpoche is saying, it's the best thing, really wonderful thing to do. Because, without words, you understand? Normally, what your teachers are trying so hard to do, some days harder than others, is to try to kind of eke out a kind of virtuous thought, elicit a virtuous thought in your minds, right? Very hard. Oh, not with you guys. You guys are easy. But, you see, without words, even, he's saying, Lama Zopa was always saying, in your house, you have a statue of Buddha. It doesn't have to be gold like this, or even a picture, postcard. The person goes to your house. It says, even the merit of seeing a Buddha, even a picture, then you get you collect the cause for seeing 10 million Buddhas in the future. Just by seeing. Then of course, by the way, we were just talking about our friend Shariputra, foremost of the Buddha's disciples in wisdom. How did he become like that? So actually it said in one of his previous lives, he sees a painting like this. It's like, wow, so amazing, So again, just seeing, great. But to see and then have faith arise, wow, I want to become like that. There's no mention, there's no reckoning, right? So, by seeing a picture of Buddha and then having that kind of, admiration arise, that became the start, the root for him to become the foremost of the Buddha's disciples. You see? Okay, anyway, we're getting a little bit off track. But what that means, when you see Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, when you hear him teach, he'll be always emphasizing, it doesn't have to be gold, all this kind of nice stuff. Even, very simple. Print out. Same. Actually, as Nagarjuna says, whether the image is made out of gold or wood, clay, the wise will treat them all with the same amount of respect.
Venerable, we can continue tomorrow when you're better. Have some rest. I won't be able to teach tomorrow, man.
She told me at the beginning, see how she is now, so compassionate. At the beginning of the session, the show must go on. Right, Shanti?
By tomorrow we want to improve.
Yeah, I know.
And to be normal.
I'll finish. This isn't the worst, actually. The worst, I was leading a retreat in Goa last year. And I just come down from Dharamsala where it's freezing. It was like snowing there left.
I think it's those things, those old things.
Oh, it could be. Anyway, so I get down to Goa, and I have some kind of laryngitis. So like the first day was okay, but I'm getting more and more sick. It was a 3-day teaching, and 3-day kind of retreat, and there's a lot of people. And they paid for my plane ticket and all this stuff, so I was like, okay, the show must go on. But by the last session, I was like totally talking like this, and it's like really raspy. But somehow, actually, I thought maybe it had some kind of bigger effect for some people. Because they were like, wow. It took me a while to recover actually after that. Anyway, so what was I saying? Introduction to Dharma. So yeah, I was about to wrap up, Shanti. So we're saying for Dharma, then we need 3 levels of motivation, and then this one, not just wish to become enlightened. Wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So actually, that wish to benefit all sentient beings, that's the mind of compassion. Actually, compassion is wish that others be free from suffering. Right? But seeing that only if we become Buddha, we'll be able to benefit sentient beings in the best way. Otherwise, even if we attain, the state of individual liberation, we won't have all the qualities, all the power, all the wisdom to lead sentient beings in the best way to enlightenment. Therefore, we need to attain full enlightenment. So that mind, briefly speaking, is the mind of Bodhicitta. Bodhi being enlightenment, Citta being mind. So the mind that wishes or aspires to enlightenment. Then the one who has Bodhicitta, but is not yet a Buddha, is Bodhisattva. Although, this wish, Bodhisattva, they call the entrance to the Mahayana. Right? That's what Maha, again, great, Yana, vehicle. This is a great vehicle because the motivation is great. Wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Then, using that as a fuel to the vehicle takes you to the result, which is also great, the achievement of full enlightenment. Okay? So this mind of Bodhicitta is the gateway, the door to the Mahayana. But as wonderful as that mind is, that alone isn't enough. And you actually need to engage in various practices to achieve the causes to attain enlightenment.
So sutras and tantras are tools.
Yeah, I'm not getting to that quite yet. let's keep it as a, we're just talking about the causes. We need to accumulate the causes. And in general, the causes are the accumulations of merit and the accumulations of transcendental wisdom. That we can say. Now, what she's mentioning, Sutra and Tantra, yeah, okay. Those are just very different ways to collect those causes. But you see, yes, the causes to achieve enlightenment. So, this text, this is the last thing I'll say. Guide to a Bodhisattva's way of life, right? So actually, the Tibetan is like, Janchu Senpei Chepa La Jupa, which we can also say engaging in the Bodhisattva's deeds. Okay? The Bodhisattva's deeds are the practices that lead to enlightenment. You understand? So this text then is the guide, where it explains to us how Bodhisattvas train to reach the goal of enlightenment. Okay? And then the primary way of doing that is what they call the 6 perfections. Perfection of generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiastic perseverance, meditation, and wisdom. So those are the main practices of Bodhisattvas. And you'll see in this text that, with the various of the 10 chapters, then, some have a whole chapter devoted to them. So we're now on the patience chapter. We've already gone through the practices of ethical discipline and generosity. So now we're on the third of the 6 paramitas or perfections. Okay. Let's go home and collapse in bed. Okay? So we'll call that a day. And hopefully I'll feel better tomorrow. But even if not, it's okay. The show must go on.
When will we announce it if you can't?
No, Shanti, I'm just joking. But this is going to make the YouTube highlight reel. Okay? But anyway, I think I was lucid enough that you guys understood something. Yes? Yes? You understood something?
That's not this question. She didn't get the question now.
Did you understand something from today?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously.
That's the main thing. Okay? But we understand so then we can put something into practice.
Many doubts too.
Huh?
But many doubts too.
That's good. That's very good.
Probably you can go. We can take another session tomorrow from 6 to 8.
Yes.
And we have a sutra before that, so you can ask them.
Okay, so thank you very much. So let's just dedicate the merit. So due to the positive energy that we've created in our time here tonight, may all sentient beings, vast as of space, be completely liberated from all their suffering, and abide in fearless happiness and full enlightenment forever. We also dedicate all these merits for the long lives of the spiritual friends. In particular, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lamas of Rinpoche, all the holy gurus that are showing the complete unmistaken path to enlightenment. May they have long and stable lives. May all their holy wishes be accomplished immediately. May all of our actions be only most pleasing to their holy minds, and may we always be able to fulfill all their holy wishes instantly. Those who dedicate to the flourishing of the holy Dharma in the 10 directions forever. And also especially for this mind of Bodhicitta, that has not yet arisen, arise and grow in our minds and in the minds of all sentient beings, all seconds delay, and may the all ships of wish that has already been generated increase.